Good afternoon. Welcome back to the show, Mastering Real Estate Secrets from Top Agents. Before we begin today, I'm going to be teaching you a new class, but before we begin, I'd like to say if you're enjoying this series, please hit the like button, drop a comment, or subscribe. We really appreciate it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about your real estate career, what I like to call in 12 easy slides. Now, let's face it, real estate is not an easy job. And it's quite complex and complicated and hard, difficult. So I have done what we call reduce to the ridiculous. There's a theory in one of our closing techniques in sales that you learn about, which is reduce to the ridiculous. What does that mean? If you had to make 1,100 phone calls, I said to you, sit down, I want you to make 1,100 phone calls this year, you'd probably be overwhelmed. However, if I said to you, can you make 5 phone calls a day? Well, then you would be like, yeah, I could do that. So that's reducing to the ridiculous, right? We do it in a lot of different scenarios with mortgage payments. And if I had to make a mortgage payment equivalent to a Starbucks, would you be willing to buy this house? Yes. Okay, so we're reducing to the ridiculous. Here's your real estate career. 12 easy slides and a bonus. So there's a bonus one at the end. And we're going to talk about them one by one. So the first one that I say is, everyone needs to know there's 4 basic facts that I have here. The first is, fact number 1, real estate is a numbers game. What does that mean? Numbers. You have to have large volumes of numbers in order to make a great living in real estate. So sometimes you'll have to talk to 100 people to get one transaction. And when you get your skills better, you'll talk to 50 people to get one transaction. But it's all math, and it's a numbers game. So when people say, oh, I did 3 things, it's not enough. You need very large numbers in real estate in all sales, but in real estate in particular. If you do 52 open houses a week, you may get 5 buyers or sellers out of that. So numbers game. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to have large numbers. Every no gets you closer to your yes. So a lot of rejection in real estate, we all know that. It's difficult. So, however, every time you get a no, you should be excited because that no is going to get you to your yes. So you go, okay, next, and move on, which, by the way, is the best 4-letter word in real estate, next. Okay, so, and then fact number 1, to complete, we have one job every single day. What is it? To find one buyer or one seller every single day. That's your job. If you did nothing else and you had a full support team behind you, staff doing all your operations, you would do really, really well in real estate if you found one buyer and one seller every single day. Would you like to have 5 buyers every single week, or sellers, or 7 if you work 7 days? So that's fact number 1. Real estate's a numbers game. Every no gets you closer to the yes, and you have one job every single day to find one buyer and one seller, period. Okay, let's move on. Number 2. Okay, I know it's a numbers game and I need to find a buyer every single day. What am I going to do? Prospecting activities, right? So there's no greater work that you could do in a day if you allow yourself several hours every single day to prospect. You will find a buyer or a seller every single day. Prospect activities, networking. I like to network. I go to events, I meet people, I give out my card, and I talk to everyone I know. It's one of my favorite ways to meet people. Number 2, talk to everyone, people wherever you go. If you're in the grocery store, or if you're in a restaurant, and you just people love to talk about real estate. So talk to people. Let them know that you are a realtor. We have an old saying that is shy salespeople have skinny kids, right? So you want to be sure that you talk to people wherever you go. All right, 1031 clients, learn about them, use them. They're great. These are people who need to buy in the next 45 days. They have to sell, they have to exchange to avoid a 1031 tax deferred exchange. So they're going to buy within 45 days. Learn about them, hone that skill set if you like that kind of business, and go after it because it's a great source of prospects. Set up a database and call through the list. Okay, so we've got down here Excel. Create and use Excel database. Excel is your friend. That's my line. I love to use it because it's true. I've been selling since computers came online in 1994, And Excel has been around since then, and everyone in the world uses an Excel spreadsheet. You can get all kinds of CRM that you like, but in my opinion, Excel is your friend. You want to use Excel. Since 1994, when computers came online and Microsoft was a big player, they created Excel spreadsheets. They're very easy to use. Everyone in the world uses an Excel spreadsheet. So you can get paid for all kinds of CRMs at top producer management platforms, but I use Excel because it's the simplest and I can upload it just about anywhere. So when you want to create your Excel spreadsheet, there are a couple of items. All you need to do is keep it simple. That's number one, okay? Number two, 4 columns: name, address, phone number, email. Keep it simple. People want to put in there, when the baby was born and what house, and it's so complicated. Just keep it simple because it's a database. You need to have a database. Everyone you ever meet, everyone you've ever talked to that gives you a business card goes in this database. And then you can upload it to different lists, whatever you want. You can segregate groups at the bottom: hot, warm, cold buyers. These are your prospects, right? Or you can make them into business groups or sorority groups or your fraternity groups. Whatever, your crafts groups, it doesn't matter. You can Excel, you can segregate your groups, and you can use this for all of your marketing. This is also valuable when you go to sell your business later on. Many years later, maybe you have a database that you want to reach into, you want to give it to someone else and get referrals off that. So remember, Excel is your friend. Okay, so back to prospecting. There's other items that you can do. Farming, handwritten note cards. Take a successful person to lunch, work on expires, work on for sale by owners, open houses. This is a short list. I mean, there's probably 15 things on here. Ask for the referrals, right? These are the prospecting activities that you need to be doing every single day in your career in order for you to get big numbers, in order for you to drop down business, in order for you to have a full pipeline with 40 or 50 or 100 people in it, so that you can always have a couple of transactions in the pipeline, hot and making you a paycheck every single time, every single month, because that's what we need, right? So you have to build your business with these prospecting activities. Okay, the other thing that I want to talk about is treat your career as a business. Get up, get dressed, go to the office, and work 8 hours every single day. It's a big mistake to stay home and work from home in your pajamas, right? Suddenly someone calls you up and says, hey, I need to see a property in 10 minutes. Can you meet me? Or I have I would like you to come over and talk and see my house. You got to get a shower. You got to get dressed. You're not ready to go. You're not ready for work. People make that mistake because we're self-employed. We can stay home. We can do whatever we want. Yes. But the best and most productive agents get up, they get dressed for business, and they go to work every single day. And you want to work a minimum of 8 hours a day. If you're in an office environment, you're more likely to treat your business as a business, your career as a business, right? So I was listening to a video this morning, a brand new site that I found, a couple of women who were high-profile, high-powered attorneys who retired. And they were talking to each other about, what can we do? We're so kind of like, we need to do something. We're a little not done, even though we're retired, and they're not working in their big corporate real lawyer jobs, but they want to do something. So they said, they got together, they started brainstorming. And the very first thing that came out, which I thought was brilliant, I just watched this morning, it's called luster.net, if you're interested. However, the very first thing they said was, we need an office. We need to rent an office. So they went out, WeWork, one of those kinds of crap works, and got himself a physical office. So they get up, they get dressed every day, they go to the office, okay? And they work 8 hours, or you can work 4 if that's all your business plan is, which leads me to the next one, which is have a plan, okay? If you haven't had a chance, go back to my video of last week. It's all about business planning for 2026, and watch it. It's very helpful. It's detail of this one piece of paper here. So it's the same as trying to drive from New York to California without a road map. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it, but will it take you probably 3 times as long as if you had a map and you had a plan, right? So you need to be sure that you have a plan in your business career of real estate. And these are simple objectives, strategies, and tactics. Have a goal, set the goal, find out how you're going to get there, And I'm not going to get into the details of a business plan because I have a whole workshop on that. You can go back and watch it. But this is a short, just part of the get up, get dressed, go to work, have a plan. Okay? Let's move on to fact number 2. So, little story because a lot of people don't always get this one. So, I was born and raised in New York, and we had an old joke in New York that would go like this. There's a guy standing on a street corner, and he's asking, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? And the guy next to him makes a joke and says, practice, practice, practice. Okay? Now, if you're not from New York, it may not work, but nevertheless, it's because if you practice, you can be performing in Carnegie Hall, right? So that's a fact. We are performing artists. Now, why do I say that? When I was new, I thought, geez, I always thought I'd do something more creative and artistic in my career, for my work. I wanted to be a photographer. I wanted to do art. I wanted to do things like that, but it wasn't happening for me. But I loved real estate. And it took me a while, but one day I realized that I was a performing artist. Sort of like today, actually. I'm performing for you. I'm giving you a show here and explaining to you how to sell real estate. But you are a performing artist if you're in real estate. What does that mean? When you go on a listing appointment, you need to be dressed for the part, right? Just like an actor. You need to know your lines, just like an actor. And you need to be able to convey them with expression and confidence so that people trust you and want to work with you. So that's performing. When you're in an open house, we'll go on this side. We're in an open house and you're standing there. You need to know about the house. You need to know everything about the neighborhood. You need to know the comparable sales. You need to know your lines so that when someone walks in and asks you a question, you don't just sit there and say, I don't know, right? You need to know. So it's sort of like Meryl Streep getting up to rehearse on a stage and not knowing her lines. All performers get on stage and they rehearse and they rehearse and they rehearse, which brings me to the next point. You need to rehearse your lines. You need to know them. You need to rehearse them. You need to get a listing appointment with your sister, your brother, your mother, your father. It doesn't matter. A friend, anyone that you can practice with. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect, right? And then you're confident. So rehearse your lines. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Okay, let's move on. Another one I like to talk about is handling objections. This is also part of your performing artist, right? So how do you handle objections? Well, it's a very simple 3-step process, okay? No one is going to listen to you and no one is going to trust you unless they know that you actually heard them first, okay? Everyone wants to be heard. So objections come when someone says, hey, I really don't think, Paul, I can buy this house. It's too expensive, it's out of my price range, and it's over my budget, okay? All right, the first thing I do is I stop and I acknowledge the objection. What does that mean? I say, okay, well, what I heard you say, Joe, is that the house is out of your price range. You don't think you can afford it. It's out of your budget. Is that correct? And then Joe says, yes, that's correct. Because Joe now knows that I heard what he was saying. I didn't just try to bulldoze over him and say, hey, Joe, you can afford it. Let's do something about that. I'm sure we can make it work. No, I stopped. I heard him. I acknowledged him. I repeat back the objection to Joe. And then I can move in and say, so I hear what you're saying, Joe, is that you think it's over budget. We can't afford it. And I understand that. And I think that you might be right about that. However, now comes the handling. What if we just made an offer where your budget is and see if we can obtain it for that price? It's been on the market 60 days. Maybe they're willing to come down off the price and meet your price. Let's try it. What do you think of that? And then Joe can say yes or no if he's interested in trying. So that's how we handle objections. First step is acknowledge the objection. Second step is repeat it back to them. And the third step is handle the objection. Okay? We've already talked about Excel database, so I'm going to move on to fact number 3. Fact number 3, consistency pays. My goodness, in real estate, I have heard over and over and over, I've tried that, it didn't work. I've tried that. It didn't work. How long did you try it? I did it for 3 months. I did it for 2 weeks. I did that 3 times. I did that 5 times. No. That is not how anything works in real estate. Real estate is a long-term career. It's a long-term business, okay? So nothing happens in real estate quickly except the day that you have to write an offer, which is very exciting, by the way. However, consistency pays. If I'm going to do these videos, I'm going to do them over and over and over and over until I get traction. And if I do it for 3 years or 5 years, it's going to pay off. If I tried it for 3 months and I only had, 10 people watching, I might stop. But that is not how it works. Consistency pays. Really, really important, along with those, So I can't tell you how important that is. It's just take something and stick with it at least a year or 2 before you quit doing it. If you're going to make a commitment to something, stay with it. Okay. Along those lines, what does that look like? Create a schedule and keep it. Here's another thing that we have to do in order to succeed in real estate, right? So get up, get dressed, go in the office, right? Every day, pick a day off. I highly recommend it. I know you're in real estate and you probably think right now that I don't know what I'm talking about because, we have no time off in real estate when you're really, really busy. But that's not true. You need to create your own destiny and your own schedule. And I used to take off 1 day every single week. And the only time I would work on those days was if I had to write an offer or somebody wanted to really sign a listing that day. Other than that, it was my day off. And I can push most things. Like I said, real estate is not life or death threatening. So it can be pushed to the next day. So you have to learn how to hold your commitments. You need to hold your commitment to yourself because you need rest. I used to tell the story about how I would work, and then I was like flat out on the wall crying because I was so exhausted. And my broker said, you need to take a day off. And like I said, I thought he was crazy. But it's true. I learned how to do it. You just literally say, I'm sorry, I can't make it that day. And if you're not comfortable with saying that's my day off, all you have to do is say, hey, I have another appointment at that time. And then say, well, instead of Monday, would Tuesday or Wednesday work? Alternate choice, another closing technique, right? And if Tuesday or Wednesday at 1 or at 2 would work, okay? So these are the skill sets that you need to learn in order to make yourself have some time off. Then you want to have your schedule, which is consistent. You get up every Tuesday and maybe you exercise first thing in the morning from 7 to 8. Maybe you go on broker's tour that day from 2 to 4, and then you go to the office and you return calls. And maybe you do a little prospecting activity for an hour, okay, so that you can try to find one buyer or one seller. Very important. Wednesday, you have your office meeting. You have your other prospecting activities. Thursday, you have another meeting. It's interesting because there's always meetings. There's another little quick story I'll share. I used to run around the office when I was new. I didn't know how to juggle everything that I had to do because there's a lot to learn when you're new in real estate. And so I used to carry 3 pens. I read it somewhere, and it was a really great little plan. I'm very visual, we used to have old-fashioned day timers at that time. So I had a big calendar, and I had a red pen, and a green pen, and a blue pen. And everybody would look at me and think she's crazy. Look, she'd run around with these pens falling out of her day timer, and everything's different color-coded. But what I did was I had a visual in my calendar. So I'd open it up to a month at a glance, and I put in there all the activities that I had to do every single week that I had to do but made me no money. Okay? I had to go to the office meeting because I wanted to learn. I had to take some classes because I wanted to hone my skills. I had to, what other things that we do that make us, I went to committee meetings because I wanted to be involved in the real estate world, right? So all those activities that I did that made me no money, guess what color? Red. Stop. No money, red, okay? Then when you did activities that made you, that were prospecting, that got you closer to the green pen was the pen that you use only when you were writing an offer or taking a listing, okay? You got to use the green pen. It lasted the longest, but it was definitely, you wanted to see green in your calendar, right? But in between the red and the green was the blue. Those were the activities like showing property or making phone calls. The blue pen was the pen that you used that were your prospecting activities, that got you face to face, ear to ear, eye to eye with clients, that were getting you closest to the green pen. What are those? Those are open houses. Those are showing property. Those are networking events where you are literally in front of people that may potentially buy or sell real estate. And those are the people that you want to talk to. And then when you get a connection with them and you have a piece of business, you get the green. And I'm going to write an offer for Jill because I just showed Jill 15 properties. Okay. So when you open your calendar, you got red, green, blue, and you can see that if it's all red, you're never going to make any money. You got to get some blue activities in there. And those go back to your prospecting activities over here. Okay. All right. So moving on. Fact number 4 is we're wrapping up. We're getting there. So fact number 4, very important. 20% of the realtors across America do 80% of the business. You want to be in the top 20%. Otherwise, you may be out of the business in a couple of short years. So it's the 80-20 rule. You have to figure out where you want to be and what you're going to do and how you're going to get there. You've really got to commit to this piece. So I was scared to death when I heard that statistic because I thought, well, I really wanted to succeed and I had to be in the top 20%. Most of, the top people are in the top 10% anymore and the top 1% nationwide. So those are your goals. That's how you get there. You can put them in your business plan. You can make it a goal. You have your strategies. You do your prospecting. All these things are going to get you in that top 20%. But this is critical for you to remember. So park it somewhere. The last piece I'm going to talk to you about, and then I have a little bonus one, is this slide here, which is in any contract situation, you and everyone always has the same 3 choices, okay? What are they? Accept it, reject it, or counter it. People come in, and it's good. You could use it with your spouse. You can say, hey, honey, what do you want for dinner, And they can say, I want fish, and you could accept that. You could reject it, or you can counter it. And you say, let's go back to objection handling. Let's use it on our spouse, okay? So, honey, I think what I heard you say is you really want fish. Yes, I do. I want fish tonight. Well, I'm just not feeling like fish tonight. So would you mind if we had something else? And then you just did a closing technique on your own spouse, and they wouldn't even know it. So these are negotiation skills that we learned throughout our career. And that's another class that we could talk about for the top 10 closing techniques, which I really love. But anyway, nevertheless, everyone always has the same 3 choices. If a buyer doesn't write an offer and they come back, they can accept your offer, they can reject it, they can counter it, and so on. That needs no further explanation. And we can move on to my little bonus, which I like to say, it reminds me of 2nd grade. This is something really important in real estate. You need to ask lots and lots and millions of questions of people. They don't mind. People love to hear the sound of their own voice. It's good to ask them questions. But then you need to stop and you need to listen to what they're saying. Sometimes if you want, you could ask, may I take notes? Sometimes you can say, may I record this conversation so I have better notes when I go home, right? And they don't mind, people, because you find frequently, let's say you're on a listing appointment, and there's a lot being said. You're trying to build rapport. You're trying to establish a relationship. You're trying to learn about the house. You want to get the business. There's a lot of things going on. You may not remember what they said when the roof was last put on. But if you're writing notes or you're recording, you're likely to get the answers to that. So what are these questions? 2nd grade. Who, what, where, when, and why, and sometimes how. Just ask. So how did you come to buy this house? What do you love about this house? Why do you live? Why are you moving? Where are you moving? When are you moving? Lots of questions. There's no shortage of questions, but be sure to stop and listen so that you can get the best information for your appointment possible. So that is reduced to the ridiculous. I think we did that in 20 minutes flat. You've got your real estate career in 12 easy slides. And if you take that information, those basic core 4 facts, and a couple of little tidbits here and there, and you focus on those, you will excel very, very quickly. I promise. Thank you for listening. And remember, if you like it, hit the like, drop a comment, or subscribe. Thanks so much.